morning. My name is Vijay and I'm going to do the next presentation. As many of you know, one of the things Zoho does is build out this productivity and collaboration suite. So I want to give you a sense of what the company is about, what it does, what our focus is, so you get a clear sense of direction, where we are headed, and how we view what we do for you. So that's what I want to anchor in my presentation today. So before we start here, we are talking about productivity and collaboration for businesses, for people like you. Most of you either run a business or you're part of a business. So I'm going to start with something a bit fundamental. What does actually a business do? So it reflects on how we should be helping the business. So what's the fundamental purpose of a business? It's a bit rhetorical, so I'll answer that myself. Here's one definition, okay? I'll read this out to you. The purpose of a business is to create and keep a customer. Peter Drucker, the management guru, or the guys who coined the name management guru, I find him the pithiest, smartest person to listen to. There are a lot of people who talk in this area. I follow only one or two. He's one of them. And incidentally, I should tell you the story. People call him this management guru. And one time they asked him, because he actually, the name was coined on him. So they said, where did you come up with this business guru? So he had you can see it, the opinion he had of himself. He actually said, I think they used the word guru because charlatan was too long to fit on a headline. So he had his head in the right place. So before we go a little bit further about the business, Sridhar touched a little bit about productivity. So I'm going to come back to that because that's what this conference is about. It's productivity. And we need to have a little bit of a common language here, maybe a little bit of common terms. So when you look for what we do over the next couple of days, you can anchor it on some of the themes that are being set up front, right? So you have a context for how we talk about it. Here's a simple definition, getting more done with the same resources. Strictly, that's actually what productivity improvement means, but it conveys the point. Sridhar had a very, very similar definition. So without getting pedantic on you, this is an economist who deal with productivity all the time. They use very similar definition. They just use slightly different terms. Instead of more, they use production or they use output. And when they think of resources, they call them factors of production, labor, land, things like that, right? So that's the most common way to do it. And the reason companies, countries, people, enterprises advance is because productivity keeps going up, right? That's fundamentally what makes things more competitive and makes things better, not just for themselves, but for people they serve. We to serve you, you to serve your customers. So the role of this conference is to explore how technology can help you drive that productivity. And what role does that actually play? So I'm going to just touch on that a bit. So technology actually influences productivity in three ways. This is one way I've been looking at it, and I want to share this with you. The first is efficiency, right? Probably relate to it. You get things done faster, or you use less. Both is a form of efficiency. So let's put this in some contextual example. So when you're looking at a product, let's say you work with one of our suites, you find stuff that you need. You're looking for something, you find it. You're not spending 10 minutes, 15 minutes searching for it. That's an example of efficiency. So when you look at our products, we're going to go through a set of them over the course of the next 2 days. Look for the stuff. Can you find things? Where are the examples of efficiency? Does it make me get stuff done more quickly? The second definition, automation. This is the classic notion of technology and in productivity. Basically, can I stop doing some things? Sridhar talked about, he opened his section today about the things that he actually doesn't do, right? So that fits into automation. What can I completely avoid? What can I not do at all? Because it gets done. Now let me give you a context for that in a productivity suite. Let's say you're running a marketing campaign. It's automated for you. You pick a calendar, you set it up, you set the context, you set the audience, you put it together. If you had been in our CRM conference a few months ago, you would have seen how we'd have done that. Look for this in the products over the next day or so. Look for ways where the product allows you to avoid work. That's automation. That's another way of driving productivity. The third way, and I'd like to spend more time on this, is in the area of innovation. Economists also have fundamentally realized that the biggest pushes in productivity actually come from here. They don't really come from the first two, because the first two tend to get tapped out over time. So they come from here. It comes from doing something differently. In some ways, the valley here epitomizes some of that. It disrupts models. It changes models. It does things differently. It reinvents things. So you do things better. You reinvent things. So look for examples of this in the products that we look at. And how do you get that done? Does a product really do that for you? And I'll tell you how fundamentally products technology does that for you. This is the biggest driver of productivity. And the way products do this for you is not that they can reinvent things. They put you in a position to reinvent things. And that's really where the aspect of the second part of this conference, collaboration, fits in. We'll talk more about that later. But fundamentally, when you hear the word collaboration, it is not some gizmo in the product. It is the ability to bring minds together to solve problems better, to carve new paths, to reinvent things, and fundamentally drive up productivity. So that's what you should see when you look at collaboration. It's not just a tool. It's not just people working on something for the sake of working on something. It's to work together and bring the best things together quickly and reinvent things. Okay, that said, I'm going to return to the notion of what a business does. So we talked about gaining customers. So what do you need to do that as a business? You need to support that activity, right? So primarily a business supports it in a couple of ways. Business is constituted of its assets. So think of it this way. Your business is serving customers. It owns a bunch of assets. It has to get those assets together, enable those assets to serve that fundamental purpose, right? So one big asset is people. Most people will argue that that is the most valuable asset in a company, so you have to empower your employees. Second thing, of course, is a business is an entity. It needs to run itself. It needs to manage itself. So you run your own operations. So if you think of any business, it probably fits in these three areas. Almost any business has to do these same three things. So I'm going to go back to start with the first one of gaining customers. So this is, you might find this as a story. I'm going to track this back into how we view what we do for you and how it connects together with all the products that we provide. That's the path I'm going. So I want to lay out to you our fundamental assumptions of the things we do for customers, how customers work, so you see how we actually work and how these random things that look like innovations or new products or capabilities have a theme to it. They have a connection to it. They have a reason. So let's start with gaining customers. What does it actually take to do that? So I've tried to simplify this. A lot of times in technology and in business, the world is actually full of jargon. It's hard to pass through all this and get to some basic stuff. So that's what we like here to do. We like to try and distill it down and take out all those words and just see what it really means. So what does it take to gain customers? Okay, it's simple. You can just say it in 3 words. You got to find people. You got to find people. You have to reach out to people who qualify being your customers. So if you're a business, that's one thing you have to do. You have to go acquire them. There's a process to acquire them, and that process is how you convince them that you're the right solution for what they do. And of course, you have to, once you have them, you've got to retain them. So reach. Now I'm going to bring back the things that people use when they describe businesses. That's the role of marketing. That's what marketing does. So everything marketing does is just that, is to go reach for those people who are eligible customers for your business. Role of sales. That's the role of support, or in some places they call it account management. So all of this is what you need to do to bring a customer. No more, no more. So when you look at automation, when you look at the role of technology, you need to look at it through this lens. So where does it support you do this? How does it support you reach better, acquire better, retain better? So now I'm going to tell you how Zoho views this. How do we look at solving this problem? And that's our suite. So those of you, some of you, I saw some hands for CRM, and you probably came to our conference 3 or 4 months ago. That was on marketing and sales. So that's our product suite. So what we do is we have a marketing suite. The ShopRite people over here might recognize some of those icons. So I'll point out a few. In marketing, you have Sales IQ, you have marketing campaigns, something that allows you to analyze who comes to your website, that's Sales IQ. Campaigns, something that allows you to do the reach part of it, get to your customers, and once they respond, how do you know who's responding? That's the Sales IQ. Reach. Sales, CRM, that's the flagship product. Not going to spend time here. We have a whole conference of 6 days to talk about that. That's where that fits in. Support, the ability to connect with customers and then to support them. So that's another set of tools and capabilities. Now this is part of a big part of what Zoho does, and we have a separate Zoholics for this, as you know. So once you go through this and you see what we do for businesses, come to that conference, come and attend that, and you'll see what we do in that area. So what is it that we fundamentally do? It's more than just automating stuff. It's more than just software. It's more than just technology. It's providing a unified view of that. And here you will see again these terms being bandied about. The notion of integration, the notion of collaboration. For example, when you're on a sales activity with a customer, are you connected to what you learned at the marketing phase? When you're supporting a customer, do you actually know information about them that comes out from the CRM system and helps the support person on their desk know this customer is really important. She's been with you for 7 years and she's been using these products. You need that at that time, contextual integration. Raju today will spend a lot of time on that, talking about how these productivity products connect with other things we do at Zoho. So that's what the front office does. It's a unified view. It's not just a set of products. It's the ability to provide, integrate, and introduce relevant information at the right time when decisions are made. Okay. So let's take the second piece. So we talked about your primary purpose of a business to bring in customers. And how do you do that? I'm going to talk about running your operations. What does this take? So now we talked about how you support customers through your assets. So you need to manage these assets, right? So what are those assets? People, money, capital, as an economist would call it, and assets, which doesn't fit into those two, basically. That's what it is. And if you look at how this translates into roles within the company and therefore into software systems that support and automate and innovate in those roles, you'll see people is the scope of HR. That's what human resources does. You manage people. Finance. This is the function that primarily handles all of that. Finance, accounting, money, managing your capital, growing your capital, and being able to make sure that the rest of the business stays in business. This is all the other stuff you need to run your business. Asset management. Today in companies, there's a lot of IT. Somebody asked a question about inventory. That's where this would fit in. Managing inventory, managing your IT assets. So that's the area of asset management. This whole thing is running your operations. So now let's see what the point of view that Zoho takes on this. If you come back later this year, we have another conference. And that's going to be on this. It's going to be on the Zoho, what we call the Zoho back office. So again, we have 3 suites of products. We have the HR, a couple of them are more advanced than the others. And this whole suite, by the way, is newer than the other things we're doing. So it's evolving faster, actually. So we have an HR suite, a lot of products there that help customers, people management, performance management, all that stuff is captured there. Finance, we have a flagship product there called Zoho Books. Again, some of you who use that will recognize the icon right away. We have invoices, we have expense management, subscription management, all the kinds of things you do to basically manage your money and your income and revenue and cost. Then you have, of course, the IT side of it. We have some products coming up there, notably inventory management. We also have a really, this is one big area I should point out. IT and assets is something that is actually much more specialized in different companies. Every company does some of this stuff differently. So you don't have specialized tools like CRM that have evolved to solve this process well. So what we've done there is we've introduced our product called Zoho Creator, which is an application builder. So if you look at how Zoho Creator is used, some of you may be familiar with it, a lot of it is used in that area. So for instance, we have a company out here about 30 miles from here that it's a winery. They run the entire winery on Zoho Creator. It's a dance company in New York that runs their entire dance operations. It's a dance company. They teach dance, and they manage things like students, subscriptions, payments, all the kinds of stuff to run their business. There's no app for that. There's no software for that. You can't just buy that off the shelf. So they take Creator and they make their own app. So that's what we offer in that area. So once again, what do we do there? It's a connected view of the back office. So all these things again are linked. You have data coming to you at the right time contextually. That's the back office. So again, if you want to learn more about this, want to try this out for your business, come back later this year. So let me go to the third area here. So this is the focus of this conference, about empowering employees. So this is the Productivity and Collaboration Suite. So what is this really about? What do employees do? They create stuff, right? They create stuff. It could be documents. It could be reports. It could be forecasts. You know, whatever you do, you're creating stuff. You're producing things to fulfill those other two buckets that we just saw, to fulfill that front office and to fulfill that back office. That's what you do. You create stuff, and once you create it, again, we're talking the context of the cloud here, you need to control it. So you need to control it, you manage it, you make sure that it's available, the right people have access to it, and so on. And then you need to communicate. It goes back to the notion of collaborating to build things together. So you need to communicate with other people to finish that stuff, to provision that stuff, to make it get implemented, whatever it is, right? Whether it's a plan, whether it's a contract, whatever it is. So that's the notion of this empowerment. And you'll see it's about content creation. So to simplify it, think of it as content creation, content management, and content communication and collaboration. So email and other stuff fits on the right, and the authoring tools, of which Writer is an example, fits on the extreme left. So what do we have here for you? Call this a Zoho workplace. So you have a set of authoring tools, which is that create part. You want to build a report, execute a contract, design a project, any other things that you want to do for your business, that's what you do. We have tools specialized for each of that. They run on the web, they run on the mobile, the data is available from everywhere, exactly like Sridhar was talking at his keynote. The middle part is the Zoho Docs itself. That is think of it as the equivalent of your desktop in the cloud. So what happens here? It's impervious to you. It's actually behind the wall. So you never really understand or see the complexity of what happens there. A lot of stuff goes on. Your data is stored on the cloud. Your data is provisioned. Access is enabled to the right people. Access is verified. Authentication is done. Data is secured. Audit trails are maintained. Replication of data. All of this stuff, the stuff that Sridhar says he doesn't worry about anymore, happens right here. So this is that automation part. Productivity, because you don't do that anymore. Somebody else does it for you. So that's the middle part, the storing and the provisioning and the enablement of that data so it's available to you. The last part is the communication. This goes back to the notion or the third aspect of productivity, where the greatest innovation comes through collaboration. So the communication tools, the right tools to do that. So how you actually communicate. You communicate within your teams, maybe small, tight teams. You may communicate with more sporadically with other groups in the organization. You may communicate externally, suppliers, vendors, customers, right? You need the right tools for everything. You sometimes communicate formally, sometimes informally, sometimes idiosyncratically. So however you communicate, you want the right tools. You want the ability to just have them to fulfill that purpose. So we've a set of tools there. You'll see Mail, you'll see Connect. It is, as they call, a social enterprise software for business, and collaboration software for business. And we have Chat and other tools. So you'll see some of that there. In the middle, you'll see Docs. Docs is the place. We have a section on Docs today, so we'll go through that in some detail. You got to see some of the authoring tools. You saw Writer. Sridhar used that to showcase some of the concepts and ideas and thought process of how we go about things. So you saw Writer, you saw Notebook, which was, again, an authoring tool, but designed for a different device. You'll see some other things. You'll see what we're doing in the area of sheets, in presentations. Showtime that you're using here today is an example of this, somewhere of this communication tool, a different type of communication tool to get to people who may be here, who may not be here. Okay, so this is the focus of today's meeting, and the workplace is the seat of all innovation. I touched on this point before, and I want to bring that up again. It's a seed of innovation because that is where people collaborate. And I want to stress that point again. So look for that. The reason we talk about collaboration is not because it's a cool thing to do, because we fundamentally understand the way our organization works, that new ideas come out. Somebody who's 6 weeks into the company can stand here and do stuff simply because he or she has access to everything. They just look at stuff. They walk across. They do the old school stuff. Walk across and see. So just sit across and we talk. Or gets online, just looks at everything we have. People collaborate on documents. He edits various things. He's one of our editors of content as well. And when all he does is he gets onto a document, starts looking at what people do, learns from other people who correct. In 1 week, he picks stuff up that in a normal organization would take a very long time. That's innovation. So you're transforming people at paces that couldn't be possible without this kind of technology. Okay, so we talked about this, and but there's change around the corner, right? Work itself is changing, and I'm going to touch on 3 or 4 things that characterize that. The first one here is from planned to opportune, right? So work used to be structured, work used to be predictable, work used to be easily orchestrated, right? And now it's harder to do all of that stuff because things just happen. A lot of innovation happens, or a lot of competitive advantage is created, and many of you are small businesses, so you'll understand that, because you simply go and seize an opportunity that you just happen to see. So work is changing fundamentally in this way from how it was several decades ago. You'll see some of our tools adapt to that. One of them is projects. Projects evolved from that old world of planning. Second, work has gone from directive to collaborative. Once again, we've spent a lot of time talking about this word. This is what's fundamental about collaboration and innovation. Innovation happens, right? It's unpredictable. It's unpredictable. It happens. It usually comes through some flash of brilliance. A lot of times we think that's the only way it happens. But the minority of innovation comes through flashes of brilliance. The majority comes through some systematic methods. Collaboration actually makes innovation systematic. It makes it more systematic than being completely accidental. And that's fundamentally why you see all these things in our tools. Another trend, work is moving everywhere, right? Across geographies, across space, time, all these places. So your tools have to adapt. Your technology has to adapt. Work follows you today. You follow work. I'm going to be on a plane on Sunday following work. My work from here is going to follow me. So that's the way it's going to be. So you need the right tools. You need the right capabilities. You need all of this available. Back to the notion of the cloud as the best way to solve this today. This is a big topic in itself, so I'm just going to touch upon this. It means a lot to us in this company. It's a lot of learning has traditionally, work used to be formal. Learning was formal. Knowledge was formal. You went to college to get a degree. All of us know, many of us probably have multiple degrees, but all of us know it doesn't prepare you for work. Ultimately you come in and you have to learn at work. Knowledge is not formal. Knowledge is gained, so it's experiential. So the tools should allow that knowledge to be, that's the Japanese call this intrinsic knowledge. So the tools should allow companies to build this knowledge, share it, disperse it. This is a big topic. It's a big topic for Sridhar. If you engage him now, I think he'll go on till maybe 2 o'clock tomorrow. And he'll just be getting warmed up. So you learn best, that's the way I would put it. You learn best when you just do it. So your tools should allow you to do that. So you see, that's how work is changing. Has technology adapted? And here I'm talking about software technology. So let's look around. It also gives me a chance to look at some of the other folks out there. So let's look at some of the other companies, the old dogs, big one. A lot of you use Microsoft, been around for a long time. What are they doing? Office is 30 years old or more. Got Office on the web, right? When you've got 30 years of investment and you've got hundreds of millions of customers, it doesn't pay to reinvent. Outlook, same thing. Got the product, got on the web. Same story. I can keep telling you the story, so I'll just summarize it. So that's the strategy. Take the stuff you've got, put it back. It works, but it's not reinvention. It works because people are trapped in, but it's not reinvention. 20 years from now, it won't anymore, because you'll have a new generation of people. All those changes you saw would have come into place. Okay, Google. Let's take a look at Google. So, started with search, added a number of things, mail, docs, suddenly did maps, Chrome, lots of interesting stuff, I don't know about that one. but lots of things, right? And more. Cars, I guess the next thing. So a lot of stuff going on. But where do they come from on this? Where do they come from on this? So they've got a combination of things, right? They've got stuff that's really ordinary and pedestrian and stuff that's absolutely moonshot. And you've got to commend them for that. They do have that. But that's not what drives them. What drives them is not what businesses need. What drives them is not how to completely solve a business problem. What drives them is what's cool. That's how they attract people. That's the DNA of that organization. Power to them. But they're not the guys who are going to come in and solve a business's problem, because that's not their DNA. That's not how they look at things. So today it's a bit of an alphabet soup. Okay, so old dogs, well, you see that. Now let's look at some new cats. Okay, so done with the dogs, we got some new cats. How many of you have seen any of these companies? How many use at least one of this product? But what's the deal here? They're all single product companies. They solve a particular problem. They solve it in a cool way. It looks cool. It works. It's on the cloud. They solve part of the problem. A business is a set of problems. And once you invest in some of this stuff, you got to tie it all up. You got to put it together. You got to make it work. Things don't work in islands. All of our partners here will relate to this. That's where you're around. You help people put these solutions together. You help people stitch it. The bigger problem is in stitching it together, not putting the solutions, right? So that's the big issue. If you have that one product approach, you simply can't give people that ability to work seamlessly, because it falls through the cracks. It falls through where there's no stitching. So I'm going to take you through, I'm going to summarize here for you. So if you're really looking for technology that drives your productivity, that focuses on your innovation, that tries to do all these three things, the three things that a business needs, you've got one place. You've come to the right place. Okay, and that is really, and that's welcome to Zoho. And this is what we do. This is our vision. We're close to it. Lots more to do. That's what we focus on. That's why you're here today. And let us know your thoughts and criticisms. Thanks, everyone.